everybody wants to be chosen, y'all. But being chosen, y'all, it comes with more than just, wanting to be, you know. Being chosen, y'all, comes with a big priority. So if you're wanting to be chosen, I'm not gonna say don't be happy that you're not. Just, you know, study your reality and question why you feel like you're not that. Because a chosen individual, they love themselves more than the external reality, so they're gonna build themselves up. The difference between a chosen one, y'all, and a program or a fucking bot, or if you want to say a zombie, is you have a brain, so you use that and you know what's right. These motherfuckers are brainless, or they're living without a brain because the things they do, they don't know whether it's good or bad, because even though they know that the shit's bad, they still gonna partake in it. For a chosen one, your presence is high, and that's why you gain attention. A lot of motherfuckers jealous the fact that you get the attention, but it's unwanted because you don't want the attention, y'all. That's exactly why we make these videos, to help people this way. A chosen one necessarily doesn't like to be the center of attention, y'all, because we like to protect our energy. But if you're a person who lives through the ego, or you love this materialistic matrix concept where you love that attention, you love feeling like everybody should look up to you because you want to feel like you matter in this world. But like someone like myself, yeah, we don't care because our energy, our aura, our presence, it balances the world. God has put a chosen one in places where we gotta be, because there's nothing but darkness around us. We balance the plane by bringing our light to the forefront, and that's why they can't take being around you, or they always trying to throw problems at you. But I'm gonna remind you, chosen one, that your power is in absorbing their asses. So anything they throw at you, you transmute it, and you bring that up into the cosmos with you, because you go up into these higher vibrations. I'm always reminding y'all that this world, as it crumbles, it rebuilds. But when it rebuilds, y'all, it rebuilds through peace and through harmony. But a lot of these beings ain't gonna make it to see that because they're projectors. That's exactly why they love feeding on your negativity. You can't give them that energy, y'all, because if you are a true chosen one, you don't act out of negativity. You are light. You're here to help the ones that need that. So for the people who are watching this video, that's exactly why a chosen one does not like to go around, y'all. I haven't been to the store in fucking years, y'all. Not because I'm afraid or I don't like people. No, it's because I feel energies deeply, and I don't like being around those low ass frequencies, because that's truly hell right there. If I go into those frequencies, y'all, I'm protected, and I know that. But you just feel how everybody else is living, because your aura is magnetic, so you're gonna pull in beings if they vibe low or high, no matter what, and you don't want to be the center of attention. That's exactly why a chosen one is alone, y'all. So if you are alone right now, y'all, when you have a mission, and your mission is to help the ones that are lost, pick up that call so they can get on this, this wave. The only thing you should be doing right now, y'all, if you are really chosen, is to be feeding your body light. That's why you gotta come outside and absorb the light while it's shining. These clouds ain't out right now, y'all, and you gotta be eating light foods that are gonna give your body energy. If you're eating a bunch of shit that's gonna cause you to lose yourself, well, that's exactly why you're battling your inner self, y'all, because your inner self is refusing the shit that you're putting in yourself, but it can't tell you that. So it's gonna show you that based on how you're feeling in the present moment. But there's a lot of people that are crumbling. You know why, family? Because they haven't understood one thing about the world, and that's frequency. Frequency is like a radio, but it's in radio waves, because it's about how someone is, in that moment. So think about it like this, y'all. If you have no energy in your body, you don't want to do nothing. You're weak, right? So you're at a low vibration, for the fact that, you're slow, everything feels heavy, that's a lower vibration. That's the fleshly side of the world, y'all, because that's exactly how materialistic things vibrate. They vibrate so slow that you can see it. But once you start, rising, and once you protect your spirit and you live through that, you vibrate much faster. That's why your body starts to become cold, you feel lighter on your feet and your whole being, and you feel like you could do more things and focus right. That's you living through your spirit, y'all. So when people are talking about how there's a shift, it's a shift within. The people who have no awareness of their inner, heaven, they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, y'all, because all they do is live outside of themselves, That's not good, y'all, because how you ever supposed to have awareness for yourself? Awareness is your biggest superpower, y'all, because you have the ability to say yes or no to things that are either going to help you or keep you away from your true power, But as I sit out here and I take in the sun and I get these downloads, you gotta, master your reaction, y'all. That's why I always tell y'all, every time you step out the door, y'all, know who you are, because the enemy wants you to react, y'all. You feed this matrix whenever you give somebody a negative charge, Say someone is a bad spirit and there's nothing but lower entities around you. Or if they try to do something to irritate you, don't react, y'all. Just, let that energy pressurize you, because, the more pressure that they give you, the more stronger you get, y'all. It's like a sword that's weak, y'all. It's nothing until it gets furnished through hell, Why you think you gotta keep on hitting that hole and keep forcing it until it becomes sharper, more heavier and more, dangerous? That's you, family, at your highest. And that's why they keep you away from your spirit form, These beings, y'all, they don't want you at your spirit, because now you start acting like Christ, When God was here, y'all, or if you want to talk about, just the story, he lived through the Christ consciousness that was in him. And that's why he was aiding everybody and trying to help them with their problems, or telling them to seek within, to look for the betterance, man, because your reality is based upon what you believe in, family. So if people are always looking at me and questioning why do I wear these hats, y'all, this ain't because, I'm trying to show you that the army's good. No, I wear this shit because I'm a one-man band, y'all. I am the army. I'm a one-man show. I don't need nobody else, y'all. And I never did, because the kingdom of God is within me. The Most High reminded me of that. And now I'm tapping into my abilities to show you that this is how you're originally supposed to live, y'all. There's a reason why you don't like going out in public, y'all, for too long, because these people that you're around, y'all, they don't understand what the fuck you talk about. They can't grasp this because their consciousness, they don't have one, You have a consciousness, y'all. Why do you think you question everything? Why do you think you like talking about space or what's below the fucking water, We could talk about this shit for hours, family. I might even go live on this to get a lot of people in here so we can retrospect and talk about how certain things like this matter, but in a way to where they get you away from that, because they don't want you thinking about unearthly things, because they want to keep your mind entrapped, to the physical bound of what this world holds. So what you are driving or working or just out, you're looking at everything with your eyes, y'all. That's all they want you to know. But when you tap in right here, y'all, you realize that you are truly set free, y'all, because you can go so high in vibration, y'all, that a motherfucker can't see you, Don't you know how powerful that is, family? That will scare somebody if they're unaware, That will only terrify you because you don't know science, You were taught, the basics, but you weren't taught no quantum physics or no meta, So that's why I'm here to remind you, family, that your power, since it lies within you, you gotta harness that power and keep it sprawling. You know, that's what everybody talks about, being celibate, or they talk about working out, or they talking about just eating a proper diet. You know, you don't have to eat healthy every day, y'all, but it's important to cleanse yourself because that shit was never meant for you anyway. Because back then, y'all, eons ago, you weren't eating that shit. You know, you were eating what the planet gave you, and the planet, you know, there was no factories, there wasn't nothing that was man-made, so everything came from a vine or a fucking, you know, a root. And that's what you gotta accept, y'all. The basics of nature and the understanding that everything was here for us the way it was, you know. That's how a chosen one thinks, and that's why a chosen one, you know, doesn't accept how the world is now, because everything is artificial now, you know. They killing your planet, but they're also killing you, because they're telling you and showing you that they don't give a fuck about you. You know, everything you partake in is slowly killing us, yo. Don't you think? Like everything, not just the food, not just the clothes, not just what we do, but everything is killing us slowly, because everybody's, you know, stuck in hell, yo, that lower vibration. They don't even love themselves, you know. And if you are acting out anxieties, you know, are frustrated all the time, or you just never happy, that right there is what's killing you faster than any fucking thing in this world, yo, because you haven't came to terms with peace, you know. You can't accept everything for what it is, yo. A lot of people, they go crazy because they're fucking bored, yo. But I love being bored, you know why? Because it shows me that I can at least sit with myself and know that everything is here for a reason, you know. When I was smoking weed, yo, you know, I was not a shell to myself, but I was trying to cover the fact that this reality ain't what it is. And that's why most people love smoking. Not because it makes them feel good, because they want to escape this, you know, this solid dimension that we are in. Everybody is so used to vibrating high, not because your body loves it, but because your soul remembers that feeling. That's why everybody loves to vibrate high when they smoke. It temporarily puts you at a higher vibration. But what happens whenever you sober? You coming right back down. You know, that's with anything. Shrooms, drinking, you know, drugs. That's why you gotta focus on meditation, y'all, and loving who you are within, you know, because that's the only thing that's truly gonna make you feel like you have value in this world, y'all. You're not valued by what you have materialistic, y'all. So if there's women out here that love you, or let's just say you have a woman that you know adores what you say, well, because y'all, you're standing on your principles, y'all. You value yourself, y'all. You know, it comes to a point where you gotta value yourself more than anybody, y'all, because it's all about your identity at the end of the day, y'all. You know, that's exactly why ever since I woke up, y'all, I live in change, you know. I don't like to stay the same, you know. You gotta work your body out, family, you know. But before I end this video, I wanna remind you that, remember, if you don't like being around people in public, or you just don't like going around, you know, anywhere, that's because your aura stands out, y'all. You notice that all eyes are attracted to you. Yeah, that's a good thing, but in a way, that's not, because they still don't understand what you are doing. They don't grasp your energy, because though it stands out, they haven't felt that way about themselves, y'all. And that's why they don't like being around you, because they can siphon your negative energy, but they can't siphon that positivity energy. You know why? Because they ain't have no positivity in them. They run off of negativity because they live in fucking hell, yo. You know, I will never stop preaching this concept, yo, because I've been that way before. You know, if you had a family or you lived around beings who love to argue and shit, and they love warring, you realize that shit ain't the way, because you're only killing yourself faster, you know, by reacting. So, remember, family, since the war is against you, the chosen ones, that's why you must protect your energy out here. That's why you must stay silent and only speak when you're supposed to, y'all, because your words hold power, you know. If they didn't hold power, people wouldn't listen to you. People wouldn't appreciate you dropping gems, you know. So, appreciate what God has given you, family. The power to help others, because you will awake, you know. The enemy was praying and hoping and on their knees crying and just making sure that they can do anything to keep you asleep, because they didn't want this to happen, y'all. They didn't want you to wake up, because they didn't want you to tap into your unbelievable power, y'all, which lies within you. Nothing lies outside of you, family. And that's why everything you gain is from the internal world. You know, when you go to sleep, y'all, you're going to sleep, but you're going back into yourself, because you don't sleep with your eyes open. So you're not sleeping on the outside, you know. That's something you should think about, you know, family. But remember, they want your negative energy. And not only your negative energy, but they want your energy overall, period, because that's what helps them, you know. Your energies, it's like an extra life bar to them, yo, because it's to a point where they're doing anything for it. Because, yo, your glow, it matters, yo. You may think that your glow don't matter, but it does. And that's what everybody's talking about, how the more and more we get to, you know, vibrating higher internally before it's, you know, externally, you will see beings, you know, lashing out, yo. You know, you will see a lot of people crashing out, killing, you know, because they can't sustain themselves anymore, yo. This energy is making them go fucking like they got rabies, you know. And I'm just trying to warn y'all, man, I don't want that to happen to none of y'all who are watching my videos. So protect your energy, man. Harness that, y'all. Keep it within you and meditate on that so it can rise. Because if it doesn't rise, yo, if you stay living in them lower realms, the world is gonna leave your ass behind. And eventually the world's gonna get rid of you, because there's no purpose for you here, you know? But I'll see you on the next video, man. King of Moon is out.